look short, doesn't he? The club captain with Everton, captain on Ireland. He has just been there through it all for Everton. He's adored. He pushes his teammates on. They always say that he has the highest standard for himself and his teammates.
All right, so first corner of the evening here. Bukayo Saka, young star of the English national team. Saw him have some tremendous moments in Euro 2020.
Arsenal scored on a corner in their last friendly. Let's see if they can do it again here.
There's the ball in from Saka. Everton able to get ahead on it first. Danger not averted just yet as Odegaard gathers. See if Arsenal can play straight back in. On the ball there is the young Nuno Tavares. And Everton able to clear danger. So Arsenal, they've been flirting so far, but no great chances just yet. Nothing direct, no completely accurate shots on Pickford yet, but they have been the better side so far.
That last corner, though, from Saka was a great delivery, and that was just a few inches away from good contact. I think there was Martinelli on that, the receiving end of that ball, and that's exactly how they just scored in their last friendly to turn that match around. So that was a good look for Arsenal, and here we have Odegaard driving at space like he does best.
Yeah, referee deciding not to give Calvert-Lewin the call there, and now Saka diving in. Ooh, that looks good. He thought he had Odegaard cutting into goal, and there's the foul that Everton was hoping for at midfield.
Saka got the ball out wide there, but you would have liked to see him continue his dribble, get to the end line, because he didn't quite have the channel back for the slotted ball, Odegaard. Again, Arsenal's on the front foot, but they want to be patient with their deliveries.
All right, so let's take another look at Saka right now, trying to get that ball into the mix. Saka, 18 caps for England, 17 goals for Arsenal. Played in 97 games since coming up in 2018, and in fact, I think I aged him a year. He's still only 20, and that's what happens sometimes when these boys are young, Heather. You get them up into, if you got that kind of talent, you're coming up quickly, and that's what we saw with Saka.
Yeah, and they're investing in him big time. I mean, they're investing in him so much that on that right wing, that's his starting role right now, and not Pepe, who, like we spoke about earlier, was a huge financial investment. But Saka has earned that starting spot on that right wing. Very good, getting to the end line, crossing balls back, scoring goals of his own. Loves to roof it near post. He's had many goals scored like that. So really promising young player.
All right, here's Cedric out wide. There's that man Saka again. Arsenal comfortable in possession. See, you've got Gabriel and Saliba playing centrally. Partey will drop back in and get some touches. And there's a foul. The Arsenal fans didn't like that move.
Well, it's funny, Mike. I mean, you have three Gabbies out there, all Brazilian, and you saw Gabriel in the back, Gabriel up top, having some miscommunication on that one. Here you see, again, Saka on the ball, very good dribbler.
Yeah,
getting pulled down.
Cuckoo grabbing him, the French international. Now, this is a player that Everton is excited about. Cuckoo, really technical on the ball. And here's Diggs. And Cedric allowed to play on. So I like the referee so far. Heather, when you're on the pitch early in the game like that, you're testing the ref a little bit, right? Like, are you going to let me push it? What's going on here?
Yeah, I think early on, a referee tries to set the pace. What is he going to let fly? What's he going to let go? So I think it is testing things out.
Not going to let that one go.
No, that's too much. But these guys you can tell they're supercharged, right? They're just so excited to be back on the pitch. It's a little bit frantic, and it could lead to, a sloppy penalty if people don't keep their heads.
Well, Heather, here's the other thing to think about as, once again, on the ball is Cedric. He's going to try to switch all the way wide. That will run out of play. Some of these guys are fighting for a position. Some of these guys are fighting for saying, hey, hey, coach, hey, manager, right, we say more in football. Watch me. Look what I'm doing. I need to be in the starting midfield spot. And so that, to me, also tells you some of what the intensity is going to be in a match like this.
Yeah, definitely, especially for Arsenal in the back. I think that they have a lot of questions right now and who their outside fullbacks are going to be. So Cedric and Tavares really want to show well tonight because you have players like Kieran Tierney, chomping at the bit, waiting to get fit again. and earn his way back in the starting lineup.
So you saw another physical interaction between Jesus and Mina of South America. Action there, right? Colombia on Brazil. They've seen each other before. And Cedric on the ball again. Almost a push in the back.
We talked about being overeager at defending, and I think that's a questionable no call there. He was all up on the back of Gabriel Jesus.
So this is a tricky one. Let's take another look. Ball's going to be swung in from Cedric, and you're going to see Jesus into the picture there, and it's a bit of an elbow up there from the young Scotsman Patterson. Now, Heather, I'm one that says, if it's a penalty, it better be a penalty, okay? It's such a massive influence on the game that I don't like the ones that are questionable. You got to really earn it, and it seems like the referee was in on that time.
Yeah, I have to agree. I take my words back. Yeah, Jesus sold it a little bit more. Looking back at that replay, it wasn't enough to call the pen, but he did have his arm on his back. But maybe if it was two arms, it would have been called.
Turnover. Can Jesus score?
Incredible save by Pickford. I mean, the fact that he had to be tuned in for that unexpected turnover and then to just push it wide with his fingertips.
Well, Gabriel Jesus pounces on this ball, eyes wide, and Pickford able to extend the left paw and do it in firm fashion, because had he not, that one is deflecting into the goal. Here's Saka. And there's Pickford again, this time with the right paw out of bounds. So he has really established himself, right, as the guy on this team. He was the player that I think got the most recognition. In fact, he was the Euro 2020, by the way, player. I mentioned Euro 2020, so you get a look at the replay here. But this is why he was voted player of the season by his teammates last year.
For club and country, Jordan Pickford is making himself known.
So the excellent early chance goes to a guy that typically bags goals by the dozens, and denied this time by Pickford as Arsenal crowds again, and it's off the woodwork.
Wow, so close again. I believe it was Martinelli getting up for that header. Wonderful deliveries from these corner kicks. That one wasn't saved by Pickford, it was saved by the post. An excellent delivery, curled, bent, driven with pace, so even if an Everton player gets a hang of it, it's hard to clear.
Now the Gunners have Everton on their heels here. Now the last time these teams met, Arsenal did win 5-1, but how about another look here at the header? And it's Xhaka that gets on the ball and goes off the post, and it deflects just far enough away that Jesus is not able to gather. So terrific header from Xhaka, who is not who you would expect, right? He is not typically scoring goals with his head. He'll get one on occasion.
Yeah, so I think there's been a bit of a revolution in corner kicks these last couple of years. I think in general you used to sort of see balls floated back post to kind of put in the mix. The last 3 to 4 years, the deliveries have really come near post. If you're hitting them pretty good in transition, they're springing their players forward. Their wingbacks are getting forward the way that they should be. You know, that's what Nkunku is on this squad to do. He is a fit player. He's going to bomb up and down the pitch. He's looking to make an impact. He's one of those players that are using this game as a bit of a tryout to crack the starting 11.
Well, it says something that he's out there with what is a pretty regular 11 as swung in, and that's going to be headed wide. Looked like Mina got his head on it, and he, by the way, does score often with his head. He uses that 6'5" height to advantage, but...
Uh-oh. Looks like we have a bit of a...
A water break? Might be water break time.
Might be a
Did you notice
lightning delay?
No. Okay, Heather, I think we're in water break status here. I think so. Now, to continue that discussion about Coco, there are a lot of players here for both of these teams, right? They both brought squads of 33 to 36 players, and you have some players that were on loan in the previous season. You had some players that just kind of coming up, and it says something that Nkunku is the guy that Frank Lampard
ready for this moment? Is he, is he ready for the big times? And I think Frank Lampard is it.
Well, you are watching the Charm City match presented by Frank's Red Hot here in Baltimore. No score just yet, but there have been plenty of chances already. Turner just had to make a big save.
Mike, I heard you're a big fan of Frank's. Is this right?
I do like little
what do
Frank's
you, what
Red
do you
Hot.
put Frank's on?
Almost everything. Scrambled eggs, I'll throw it on a burger, hot dog, French fries. It's a very versatile sauce.
Possibilities are endless.
Yeah, very versatile sauce. All right, so Martinelli, nice touch there, and that's going to be a professional foul. We'll see if the ref allows for play on, and advantage is being held here as Jesus was grabbed. So I expect to see a yellow later, likely on Mina, but Arsenal still in possession.
I love that from Jesus trying to play through those tackles, though. I mean, what an exciting, bright transfer or signing for Arsenal. I think that's going to be a player that there's going to be a lot of Jesus saves Arsenal T-shirts made throughout North London.
Well, here you have Decore refusing to give the ball back, which is always enjoyable. Getting into it with Gabriel a little bit. See, it's not a friendly. All right, these teams, no love lost. And
they're not on their boats in Ibiza anymore, Mike. They're back on the pitch, bringing the feistiness.
So the referee will get them split up. I want to get back to your point about Jesus. I mean, he's got a decent shot at the Golden Boot this year. Right? I mean, this is a player that didn't always get to feature in Man City's lineup. As we get a look here at the foul on Martinelli going back, and Decore dragging the Brazilian down, and his fellow Brazilian Gabriel coming in. I mean, look, it's clearly a foul. I don't think it's something that we have to spend a lot of time on in terms of the match, but just note it, right? Because the physicality may continue. That's what happens.
Look how high up the pitch Matt Turner is, getting some touches. It almost goes against him.
The eyes weren't quite as wide as when you got the ball against Colombia. Okay? But just Google that, Heather O'Reilly, Colombia, a goal, if you want to see a screamer. But the eyes were a little bit wide there as a couple of Everton players were like, okay, Turner, you want to be that far out?
Yeah, I'm questioning his positioning there, but clearly he's being told to be aggressive off his line and help with build out for Arsenal. It's been a little bit.
Cedric's been dangerous on the ball on the right wing. Odegaard has attempted a turn. Danger averted, at least momentarily, for Everton.
Odegaard looking to be that playmaker in the pocket. There's not a ton of space for him to get on the ball in the center of the field. A lot is sort of coming from the wings for Arsenal so far.
There's Martinelli on the ball. Nice to find Odegaard, but Tilly getting stuck in. Saka has another ball in a bit. There's a nice layoff to Jesus. The rare touch that's just a bit too much from Gabriel. Usually he keeps that right on his foot, but Mina able to get a leg on it.
Arsenal fans will love the attitude of Jesus there. Immediately after making a mistake trying to win the ball back, you can tell that's important to Arteta's side. And that's in the Pep DNA too. You can't have anybody bigger than the squad. Everybody does their part with and without the ball.
Look, Arsenal really trying to focus on getting back into the top four next year, as will Manchester United, who is left out in sixth, the lowest that they've finished in such a long time. And I mean, you have Liverpool, you have Manchester City, Chelsea, all were great last year, and then you have Tottenham. I mean, it is a loaded EPL. Not that it's ever not, Heather, but for those teams to try and get into those top four spots, it's an absolute battle. Every single game matters, and these two teams are trying to get ready for it.
Well, that's sort of what I was alluding to earlier when I say that there's a looseness about these preseason friendlies, but I think it's really dangerous to overlook the importance of the beginning of the season. You know, it always it always comes down to the last month, but you can look back and say, oh, I can't believe we dropped points here.
Yeah,
I can't
they
believe
count the same, right?
They count the same, and so really dangerous for teams to kind of go down early. And we saw that last year with Arsenal, right?
Saka now gets his foot on the ball, and a kind of dangerous play there as Godfrey came over and got his head down towards Saka, but Saka looks up to make sure that he's okay.
Mike, that first month of the season really kind of writes your narrative. Are you putting yourself in an Arsenal position where you're, down 3 games to start the season, and it just is such an intense pressure? You don't want to have to put yourself in that position.
All right, so it looks like we're going to have Saka called for offsides there as Jesus decides to take one on target, and Pickford doesn't appreciate it. You don't want to see that ball go in, even if it's after the whistle blows. Bad for the Saka karma.
It's probably one of those things that goalkeepers despise, but sometimes as a front player, you want to just see the ball hit the back of the net. You want to hear it. You want to hear those 10 fans that'll give you a little bit of a cheer. But Pickford's having none of that.
And then you got to look at the official and pretend like, I couldn't hear.
I couldn't hear.
And so here's Pickford. Pickford now 28, still in the prime of his career. And Heather, one thing we know is that goalkeepers obviously can play longer, right, than a field player. So we had several American goalies, right? Brad Farrell, Easy Keller, Tim Howard. Saka drives up the line and tries to cut the ball across, at which he's so adept. There is Pickford, making sure it wasn't too dangerous. But Pickford still has a lot ahead of him, even though he's been this experienced and he's at the age of 28.
And I think you're speaking to the American goalkeepers too that have come over and had a lot of impact in the Premier League, and now we have Matt Turner looking to make his impact with Arsenal. But speaking of Evertonians, you have Tim Howard, fellow Central Jersey resident. I've known Tim Howard since, like, my brother and Tim Howard shared the same prom limo.
No kidding.
We go that far back, and actually when he played at Manchester United, I went over to Manchester and saw a couple of his games. What an absolute legend.
All right, well, I'm going to ask you some more questions about that later. Meanwhile, another corner kick coming here is Martinelli this time able to get some danger.
Both Saka and Martinelli are definitely tasked with driving to the end line and chopping it back for either Jesus or Odegaard. And I think that those are the kind of connections that might take a little bit more time to form, that final crossing and finishing piece.
Still such a young team. It's much talent there as this ball gets swung in. And that is your first goal. Who else? Gabriel Jesus makes it 1-0 for Arsenal.
You just have to love this if you're an Arsenal fan or for Mikel Arteta. Gabriel Jesus is hanging in the back on that corner. And we've been talking about corner kicks, Mike. We've been saying deliveries have been good, activity in the box has been good. This one falls all the way to the back post. Cedric puts a big one in, back post. You know what? That's an exceptional finish from Jesus.
Just class touch, Heather, to set himself up, and leaves no doubt that one goes almost straight up into the roof of the net. This is a finisher's finish right here.
It is, because look, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Everton players on the goal line. He knows that he has to roof it. He has to lift it, and he smacks it with the top of the laces of his boot and gets it just high enough to clear their heads. It's a class finish.
Well, as the Everton fans bemoan now being down 1-0, you can just see and feel in this building the excitement, not just for the goal that just went in, but thinking, oh, this is our number 9 now. Okay, this is the guy. This is the talisman. This is a player that you can really, if you have a true goal scorer, Heather, you can ride that wave into a season.
Absolutely. I think Arsenal fans, they appreciate a good brand of soccer, but they need some killer instinct, and that's what Gabriel Jesus has.
And so, Arsenal now on the front foot. The last time these two teams played, Arsenal did win 5-1. It was the final game of the regular season, as we would say in American sports, in the table. Oh, I'm sorry, were you there? Heather was voicing over to me. You were there. What?
I was there. I went to, I was hoping that it would be like this epic last game of the season for Arsenal, even though we were hoping for a poor result from Tottenham. You know,
and if folks don't know, you played for Arsenal. Just to reiterate that
Arsenal,
again. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Of course, you know, being the professional that I am, I'm calling a very neutral game here
very
today.
Unbiased. Very unbiased.
Very unbiased.
Yes.
But that day, I was an Arsenal fan, and I was hoping for a huge last day of the season. And they did. They had a wonderful result against Everton. It wasn't enough to squeak into that top 4 spot. And we heard behind us, the person behind us had the Tottenham game pulled up, so we knew that they were winning. So we just tried to enjoy the sunshine and enjoy the victory that day.
Well, and I think from Everton's perspective also, they, of course, the previous game had secured themselves back into the Premier League the next season. So, you know, they were a little bit on the back foot there. The game was at Arsenal, and you could tell that Everton was coming off of the high. So, you know, earlier in the season, they actually beat Arsenal 2-1. A ridiculous goal from Damari Gray. There's that man again. And there's that Saka on the post. Saka with the finish. And it's 2-0 for the Gunners.
A really promising start to this match for Arsenal, and their transition play just looks so fast. Their crisp passes through the midfield. They won the ball in the center of the field there, and again, it's that back post player that's getting the result and getting the reward. That time it's Saka. Really good composure from the young player.
So Jesus on the ball, flicks it in, and almost a touch from Martinelli. Can't quite tell if he made contact. Let's take another look. So brilliant flick there. Martinelli actually misses it, and that ends up being to the benefit of Bukayo Saka, who was on the far post, able to clean that up. And this is an attacking trio right here, the 2 Brazilians, and then the Englishman on the end of it that Arsenal fans have to be quite excited about.
And Niels Nkuku from Everton is going to be disappointed on that. Of course, as a wingback, you love to bomb forward, but you have to stay accountable to your defensive duties. And he was just off the mark there on Saka's, and he lost the recovery run, and he pays the price for it.
It was a lightning attack there from this pacey Arsenal team, and now you can see a little bit thirsty for more. So the question is, can Everton find some composure? Can they get back on the ball? Can they get into the game a bit?
Here you see Delhi trying to pop up to the center forward spot, but really they need him to get on the ball. They need him to sort of provide a little bit of confidence for Everton, who's right now, you know, got 2 goals scored on him. Confidence is low. They need these star players to take a hold of the game and say, give me the ball. I want to be the difference maker.
Yeah, no doubt. Delhi has not been on the ball much. You have seen Damari Gray drop back into the midfield and turn nicely there, although he is holding, looks like his shoulder as he goes down. Gets some consolation from Jesus. Damari Gray again scored the winning goal. Okay, so he gets pulled down with the back of the shirt there. Just making sure that we all know.
Yeah, it was the jersey pull, then he got shotgunned, as fans say. He's just such a force in midfield, and sometimes the dismay of Arsenal fans puts a little bit too much into his tackles.
Well, Granit Xhaka, 10 yellow cards. I thought it would have been more, actually, but still a decent number. Of course, the Swiss longtime international is now 29 years old. Started his career at Basel, and then moved on to Mönchengladbach, which always takes up too much space on your sheet.
That's a long one. A lot of letters there.
All right, so Everton on the ball here, trailing by 2. Exciting up and down action here in Baltimore. Nice little give and go. You heard the Arsenal fans as Odegaard and Jesus combined.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't look like a connection that just started forming in the last month. That Odegaard, Jesus, number 10, and positionally, number 10 and number 9 having a great chemistry is a good thing to see this early in the season.
Now, we haven't seen the number 10 for Arsenal, and that is Emile Smith-Rowe, who also had a terrific campaign. Another young Englishman who's 21. Heather, I do expect that we'll see several more players in the second half, as this is a preseason game. You get more subs, so stay tuned in the second half. Meanwhile, the Toffees trying to get something going. Arsenal maybe have backed off just a bit. There's Humphrey sending it across the sideline. Martinelli on the ball. And aggressive tackle there from Tierney. Okay. Arsenal had thoughts of grandeur again to try to get that third. Cross swung in, and Jesus not able to get on the ball.
I think in terms of substitutions, we'll definitely see Smith Rowe come in. He was arguably the best player for Arsenal in large stretches last season. And here was a true academy product of Arsenal, Mike. So when I was over there, Smith Rowe was one of these young kids that I heard about. He was always in the training room because he faced a lot of tough injuries early on in his career. It's taken him a while to finally find his feet to play first-team football, and what a talent he is.
No doubt about it. And you know, a lot of the Premier League teams have made some waves in their youth ranks and calling players up, and these are two of the teams that have always developed players. The first player I think of here stateside, at least, is Wayne Rooney, right, who came up in the Everton system, was just incredible as a 16, 17-year-old for the full side. Then, of course, goes over to Manchester United and will be back in the MLS as the manager for DC United. Looking forward to that.
And another young player that's come through the Everton ranks is Anthony Gordon, who we expect to see come in and
they're number 10, Heather.
Yeah, and he just got that number 10 kit. So that's saying a lot for
21-year-old.
a club to put that faith in a young player.
And so that will go wayward. Looking for Coco up the left flank.
Anthony Gordon said in an interview that scoring goals is his most favorite thing in the world.
I mean, other than your kids, I mean, you could share that thought. No, is there anything better than scoring a goal?
I think scoring a goal is up there, but I mean, having a family, getting married.
You know,
but he's a young guy,
yeah,
so he has a basic. You know, what is he gonna say? Like, graduating high school or something?
No,
so
yeah.
of course, scoring goals.
Yeah, 21-year-old.
For the club that you grew up in and grew up going to games, of course that's the best thing in the world.
And Turner had to make sure to be tidy there in the back, and then you saw Jesus try a little feint move in case the ball went over the top. And Jesus not necessarily going to win a header over Mina, but using his body and his width pretty well. And there is Mina.
You see the frustration of the young Nathan Patterson there on the wing, and I was a wing player, Mike, so I know how that feels sometimes. You're a bit isolated, you're doing all this work up and down the pitch, but not seeing a lot of reward for it. So I'm sure Nathan Patterson's going to have a word to his center backs. Give me the ball, let me try to make a difference.
Deadly on the ball, and if you're hearing boos there, Heather, the theory would be, as a former Tottenham player, right, and not just a terrific Tottenham player who scored 67 goals and had 61 assists for Tottenham, that, of course, the North London rival of Arsenal. So he didn't do anything necessarily right now, but that's a history there, and I respect it.
Yeah, he broke some hearts of Arsenal fans, and fans aren't quick to forget those days.
So, you know, look, it's all in the game, and I'm sure that Delhi understands as Arsenal holds some possession near midfield.
You'd rather hear boos than crickets, right? I mean, at least you get a little bit of response from the fans, even if it's negative. I think that's
for
cool.
Sure. Yeah, that's part of the beauty of sports too, right? It's without that larger consequence sometimes that you can experience that kind of feeling and use it to motivate you. Arsenal still comfortably on the ball now with their 2-0 lead. 5 shots so far, 3 on target for Arsenal. Everton does have the 2 shots with the 1 on target when Cuckoo bombed up the left wing and challenged Matt Turner. Deflection there as Odegaard tried to get through. And that is going to be a foul in a tough place. Yellow card comes out. think that Arteta needs to see more necessarily from Jesus. I think he knows what he has, and you just hope it's something that carries forward. Looks to be okay.
Yeah, that's a hard tackle. I don't think we'll have any damage done, just maybe some stud marks that will bruise up for a while.
Yeah.
We'll have a tattoo, as we call it, because it was a late tackle right on the top of his foot, and that hurts a lot. But I know what you're saying. I think you preserve him. He's obviously has a good connection with his teammates. He's fit. He's scoring goals.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he plays these last couple minutes and that's it for the day.
Yeah, no doubt, especially after seeing that. Now Godfrey, English international, 24 years old.
Oh, what I saw in that last build-up, though, for Arsenal is finally Everton was sort of coming out to pressure them, and what that allowed is a lot more space in the middle of the park to play through, and that's when Arsenal's at its best. And they did that. They played it through Odegaard. Odegaard gets it up to Jesus, and it's too quick for Everton to deal with, and then that's when silly fouls happen.
All right, so standing over the ball, you have Odegaard with the left foot. And I would expect him to be the one to take it. There's the free kick from Odegaard. And he glances over the crossbar. So no threat there for Jordan Pickford. Now, how often, Heather, did you get to get in there and take a couple free kicks? Usually you're playing out wide. I know you did get in, cut in the middle a lot.
Yeah, I tell players that I'm coaching now, I say, become a set-piece specialist, because every team needs that.
Okay, so it looked to be offsides, and there, when the flag didn't go up, Heather, I had to interrupt you in case we had an on-man break, and there's the time where Turner has to see the ball go into his goal, but please, continue.
I look back at my career, and I wish that I became a set-piece specialist, because I think that it's like a very close skill, Mike. It's like foul shots. If you practice it, you can become very good at it.
Right.
And I was a good server of the ball, so there's no reason to think that I wouldn't be good at putting some bend on some shots and set pieces, but it wasn't something that I committed to, so I never was the go-to person on my teams, and it's something that I look back on and regret. You see in the women's game, Megan Rapinoe, she knows how to score goals from set pieces.
No doubt about that. All right, well, it's halftime at the Charm City match presented by Frank's Red Hot. The score, thanks in part to that man, Gabriel Jesus, is 2-0 for Arsenal.
We started UFOs 10 years ago with one sandal, and today people can get into UFOs with 70 different choices. We were with another bank. We had no desire to change, but once we started to meet the people at M&T and see what they could do for us, it was something we knew it was the right thing to do. As our company was growing, it was more applicable what M&T could offer. We absolutely made the right choice by switching.
Every time you step up to the grill, you gotta deliver. You can do all the things. Season, sear, marinate, and flavor's the last thing you have to worry about. Because no one flavors like we flavor. Grill Mates. Flame.
From selecting the perfect produce and triple checking its quality to preparing it for you, we have perfected the art of fresh.
Welcome back to Baltimore, the Charm City match, where Arsenal hold a 2-0 lead over Everton at halftime. M&T Bank Stadium is, of course, the home of the Baltimore Ravens, so we asked a few Ravens players some questions about how things would play out on the soccer pitch. Let's take a look. once again, Jesus involved, this time Saka on the far post.
Saka, a young player that's trying to make his mark, that's proving that he should be in that right wing spot. Not the big signing of Pepe. Wonderful composure to just get it right under the paws of Jason of Pickford.
You see the excitement from the Arsenal fans in the building, and they do have something to be excited about. Arsenal had the better of the chances in the possession. Of course, 7 shots to 2 there. It was a physical game. Everton ended up getting a bit frustrated, perhaps later in the half. And 5 corners, that's a healthy number. Heather, tough to avoid too many good chances if you're giving up 5 corners.
Well, I think that has been obviously what Arsenal has been trying to do. Get their wing players, Martinelli and Saka, have been creating some havoc on those wings and are really making the wing backs of Everton do a lot of defensive work.
Now, expecting to have some additional players come in, so we'll be curious to see who else is going to get some run here in the second half, Heather.
I think we should be assuming it's going to be mass substitutions for both of these teams.
All right, no question about it. All right, we do have a special guest coming up after this break, so stay tuned as we get back. Arsenal holding.
Safeway is bringing the fresh.
Welcome back to Baltimore. Mike Trudell and Heather O'Reilly. And hey, we have a very special guest in the booth, an Englishman who has helped to bring soccer, football to this country, the foremost Evertonian fan out there, the Men in Blazer himself, one Roger Bennett. Now, Roger, you have to be coming off sliding in here on an actual magic carpet after interviewing everybody in your club live in D.C.
Yes, it was like an Everton theme bar mitzvah, and it was an honor to be invited. We had a live show in Washington, D.C. on Thursday night with Frank Lampard, Anthony Gordon, Pickford, the king, the Nobel Prize winning poet, and also Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who smells fantastic. I want to make that clear to America. But it was a joyous thing to be able to celebrate Everton with so many, hundreds and hundreds of Everton fans who flew in around, and Arsenal fans, Liverpool fans there too, really to celebrate American football and the growth of the Premier League in this nation. It's really an honour. I've been keeping football back, Heyo, So I like to say I'm the last thing stopping football from
man.
going over the top in this country.
Well, also the welcome into the presence of greatness and Heather O'Reilly.
Brought it tonight.
Well,
FIFA, what are you doing? Go on.
Roger, so your boyhood club, right? And but it seems to me part of the mission of Men in Blazers is to kind of bring a lot of the joy, right, over to this country, and it just has grown so much. I mean, look at this stadium. Look what we've seen all around the country, and all of the U.S. players who go over. As we get underway here, we think of what Heather has done on the women's side to create all of those fans. Like, what has that been like, seeing the growth of this sport in this country?
I moved here right before the 1994 World Cup, which was meant to turn football like a pogo stick or a yo-yo into an overnight sensation, sweeping the nation. And it didn't. Instead, the growth has been slow and steady.
It did give us Alexi Lawless.
And despite that, the growth has been slow and steady, driven, I want to say, by the women in huge part. You know, oh, here you go. Finish!
Turn it up his line.
Oh my God! That was mixed emotions! I wanted that ball to go in so badly, and at the same time, I didn't want Matt Turner to crap his pants with the public watching.
He had that covered all the way, Raj.
I was tickling and I was crapping myself in equal measure. Godspeed, America, we live!
A lot of bodily sensations happening from Roger.
We had just discussed all of this, and then the moment presented itself, And Roger almost was on the call
I was laughing,
himself.
laughing with Heyo in the first half. Matt Turner. Oh, let's look at it again. Looking at Matt
He's
Turner.
trying to pull a Carly Lloyd on Matt Turner. Get out of
But
here.
at the same time, Matt Turner is also trying to pull a corner. He's playing attacking midfielder for much of this game.
And Everton earns a corner. Can you imagine the fear in Turner's heart as that ball appeared to be sailing over his head?
Well, in his debut for his university team, he made a play that ended up in Sports Centre's not top 10 when it hit the post. When it hit
Fairview?
the bar. Yeah, Fairview went into the air off the bar. He jumped up to catch it, and then it dropped off his nose into his own goal. So he is very used. He calls it the play. He's very used to making a clanger on his debut, God bless him.
Welcome to the prime time.
Yes, God,
Well.
Heyo, only you out of the three of us can say that. But the growth of the game in America, driven by the women for a huge part, now on men too. I mean, also by our owners. I mean, my God, we need to acknowledge the owners. If you can't become great at men's football, just buy the greatest men's football teams. But you look at this, Heyo, on the men's side, you know, the women have achieved greatness, tasted greatness, defended greatness, won again. But you look at this, and it's amazing to watch America be. I mean, this feels like a proper football nation.
It does. I mean, and the fans get it now. They're educated. I think back in '94, we'd show up to the games, and I mean, I was a Metro Stars season ticket holder. My family was.
Yes.
But I didn't know what was going on. I loved Brian McBride because I thought he was cute. I didn't know that he was one of the best midfielders in U.S. history.
He was a handsome man.
And he was a good-looking
By the
man.
way,
He is. I shouldn't say he was.
Who says you can't have it all? And he's aged so well. God love him. The reality is, the '94, the face of American soccer was stonewashed denim of jersey and ginger of hair, and despite that, the game has still thrived.
Well, amongst the changes, you see Alex Iwobi, who is somebody that could see some Premier League starts this year, of course. Played for Arsenal and now plays for the Toffees, and I'm sure a player that you like.
I wouldn't say I like him. I adore,
Okay.
I love, I revere.
Roger, you'll love this. So, Iwobi and I were number 17. He wore 17 for Arsenal, and I wore 17 for the women's team.
He wore it because you wore it.
I know. We don't. I have to admit, we DM'd in a very appropriate manner.
Yes.
About
there was
being
no
number
sliding.
17.
It was just
no,
DMing.
There was no necessary sliding. It was just very much like,
young
hi,
listeners.
I'm here.
Young listeners, listening, you need to know you don't just have to slide. You can also properly and calmly approach someone
like
to the
appropriate
DMs.
adults, we just said what's up to each other and supported each other as number 17. And I would wear my number 17 training top, which I got a lot of, can I say crap? I got a lot of crap for it from my teammates because I was wearing my own training top to go to the men's games. But I was going to support Wogs.
That's like being in the band and wearing the band t-shirt.
Exactly. It was not cool, but
you were doing it to support Wogs in your head.
Yes, I was doing it to support Wogs.
I still have a Heyo signed Arsenal 17 jersey in our studio. It's one of the joy. Oh, you can't do that to Wogs and live to tell the tale.
It's a tough tackle there.
It's Baltimore. It's the Baltimore way.
Arsenal has kept a couple of players on the pitch here, almost wholesale changes for Everton in transition. And how about this young kid? The now number 10 shirt, who you spoke to a couple of days ago.
I didn't just speak to him, I sat so close to him for 10 minutes, and he wears so much aftershave. He wears enough aftershave for the two of us. I still actually smell of Anthony Gordon's Dracar Noir, still faintly wafting off my pores in every regard, and I'm never going to shower again until it stops. He's a magnificent human being.
You like the shout to give him the number 10 jersey? You think he's ready for it?
He's the Pulisic of Everton, taking the number 10 jersey. Can I ask you what you think about that? You're a footballer. I'm just like a bald dude that watches a lot of football. But psychologically, what does that mean to a player that they've been given the number 10? Like Christian Pulisic, amazing at Chelsea, took the number 10 shirt. It always started a way of chainmail at times. What does it do psychologically?
I mean, I think it's basically the club giving you the confidence that you are
the Carly Lloyd.
You are the playmaker.
You are the Carly.
Like when times are getting tough, you look for, okay, who's your Michael Jordan, right? Who do you want to have the ball at the end of the game?
Anthony Gordon's bigger than Jordan already.
Look at this run.
Look at this. Oh my God, amazing that for years he pretended to be ginger. He didn't let the world see that he was naturally blonde. I just find that intellectually fascinating.
I love that drive from him, though, going to earn himself a corner kick. That's good stuff from the young player.
He's playing with anger because he's still annoyed that he was on stage with me. He's like, got to get this out of my system. By the way, if Everton score here, this may be lights out for Arsenal Football Club, Arsenal fans.
I will just be laying out and letting you call the goal if there is one.
Oh, I may be topless and just running onto the field if we score here. Come on, Yerry. Get it on Yerrill's head.
The old short corner that goes nowhere.
That was a little bit of a dud after the build-up.
We worked on that in training. That was exactly.
You get a block.
Yes.
You recycle. You go to the other
yes,
side.
Yes, this is wheels within wheels. Look at this. You laughed. You didn't understand. We're playing 4D. Well, not really chess. I think it's more 4D.
Oh! So Wobie and sends that one over the crossbar. Lots of young players out there. I don't know who catches your eye. Making that bombing run was Stanley Mills.
Stanley Mills? Did he win a fan contest to play?
I mean, Everton brought about 65 players over here, Roger. Actually, it's 36, but it's a lot.
I'm a little bit upset not to have gotten a nod myself, to be candid.
Is that number 56 he's wearing there? Yep, 56. I actually don't know if I've seen a soccer player wear number 56. This might be the first time.
How does it work when Anthony Gordon becomes number 10, Heyo? Does that mean like the number 10s around the world just appropriately not slide but appropriately enter or slip into his? Is Lindsay Horan reaching out to Anthony Gordon saying, "Mr. Gordon, this is Lindsay Horan of the U.S. national team. I feel obliged to
10.
welcome
and then
you."
Pulisic slides in just for fun.
Listen, I feel obliged to welcome you to the Fellowship of the Number 10s.
Raj,
yes.
Who on this team do you see yourself a little bit in? Like in Everton players. If you were going to be an Everton player in this current day squad, who are you?
I am probably Seamus Coleman.
The tried and true captain.
I probably am.
The leader.
Like old Yeller. Somebody who should have been put down a long time ago.
You can't do it yourself, so just yell at everyone else.
Old Yeller just should have been taken down to the river and just should all be ended, but somehow it never does, and you just keep going. What a
career, though. I mean, I think he's got more to give, but what an absolute career for Ireland, for Everton.
10 more years, and then we'll review.
Well, Arsenal has a couple of players that got some real run last year, by the way, guys. Just to center us for a second, Nketiah, who scored several goals last year, really impressive player, and somebody who can't even get on the side now to start because of the guy named Gabriel Jesus, who's pretty good.
Yeah, well, this is a big game for Arsenal, so I'm sure Nketiah will be very upset that he's not starting in the Charm City Classic.
That's right.
This is going to cause big headlines back. What? The big games? You're not starting me? The reality is this is Everton trying to take their Florida Cup from last year and then become the first team in world football history to do the Florida Cup Charm City Challenge double. So the stakes are very high.
Well, in all seriousness, Nketiah has to be a little bit disappointed in this splash signing of Gabriel Jesus. I mean, he has a solid year last year. He thinks he could be the guy until he's not.
Well, the reality was he almost came on loan to Everton at the start of last season, so I'm sure he was sitting on the bench just saying, thank God that didn't happen, not really worrying about starting or not starting. By the way, Everton fans listening at home, if I were to offer you, guarantee you 17th place right now, would you bite my arm off for it?
Would you bite your own arm?
Answers to heyo@gmail.com. Of course I'd bite my own arm. Bite both of them off for 17th place. So I could moan about another 38 games in the next season. God, yes, it would be magnificent. I mean, that's the amazing thing of the Crystal Palace victory when we won 3-2 coming from behind 2-0, as we will tonight, is that what did it earn us here? Just the right to be disappointed for another 38 games. It's magnificent the way life works.
Is summer just the absolute best for you? You can have a pint and not be like so stressed. Is it just the best couple weeks of your year?
Yes, you can start to dream again.
The optimism is just blossoming here.
So the reality is, at the end of the stage show on Thursday, and our podcast is up, you can access it on Apple and Audible Podcast. I had some Everton fans on stage. We applauded Frank Lampard off, and I said to them at the end of the day, I said, tell me, tell me, do you not feel this year is going to be our year? And they said, yes, we're going to be top 4. And that's the joy of football. Mass delusion, eternal hope. And being with you guys at this stadium, this ballpark, I'm going to go and get some crab cakes and a pint. With crab cakes being the Baltimore way as opposed to pie in England. But it's a magnificent night. It's a joy to be with you both. Really, really, really. And to you, the man who taught Alex Caruso everything that he knows. And hey, just, God, one of the true greats and joyous human beings on the line.
Oh, don't go out on a goal, Roger. Don't go out on a goal.
No, I'm going before there's a goal and a deluge.
Oh, man.
Godspeed to you both.
It's
Roger,
been a real
baby,
pleasure.
You're the best, man.
No, that would be you, Heyo. Mother of tea, and God, just the single greatest human being in the world. It's lovely to be with you.
Pleasure.
America.
Thanks so much.
Courage.
Check out the Men in Blazers podcast, as I'm sure you already do. The great Roger Bennett, kind enough to join us here. And resetting, it is still 2-0 Arsenal, but Heather, we have changes abound here out on the pitch, and we'll take you through them as the game goes on.
Well, there you're seeing Alex Iwobi from Everton, one of those changes, and one that, of course, Roger and I were speaking about. He had some time under Arsene Wenger at Arsenal, and he could never quite make the impact that Arsenal needed. He's having a little bit more of a role here at Everton. Fit, fast. I asked who's the fittest player in preseason, who's just lights out above everyone in all the fitness racing, and they say Alex Iwobi. He's known for being an excellent player at training, and now his next step in his game is to just be able to impact with goals and assists, and not just be a link player, but to be a player that actually instigates some positive attacking play for his squads.
You know, one player for Arsenal now in the game, out playing right back, Hector Bellerin, has been with the club for many years, of course. 3 FA Cups with them, played about 250 games. In fact, did you overlap with Bellerin?
I did. He was there, and it's so good to see him back again in his Arsenal kit. I mean, he was out on loan for a long time. A lot of people wondered if he would play for Arsenal again, and here he is getting a run. And I really like his engine. I think top guy in terms of what he brings to the club, on and off the field. He's always very outspoken about a lot of off the field issues that I know a lot of guys kind of steer away from, but Hector Bellerin he's up for making change in a positive way.
No doubt, and there's a look at Bellerin there. 59th minute in Baltimore. A couple guys still on the field. Martinelli's still getting a run, so maybe Arteta wants to see a bit more from his winger. And there he is. And he almost got all the way into net and tried to put that on the far bar. Nice run.
It's a great run and a great tackle. Martinetti just drives, is trying to get that on his left foot. Really great sliding and tackle.
Yeah, ultimately, and that's of course the new signing for Everton, James Tarkowski, longtime Burnley player. In fact, 198 appearances for Burnley. Still 29 years young. And that's going to sail just wide the corner for Martinelli.
If you're Martinelli, you either want to get that trigger off quick, or you want to put a little bit of an upper body fake shot into it to just pause the goalkeeper for a second in order to get your shot off. He was trying to just out-muscle him on that one and just not able to get his shot off the way that he wanted, but creating a lot of havoc on that left flank today.
We'll see if Everton can get something going the other way. A couple of young players in. We mentioned the run up the flank that Stanley Mills made before. That's him on the ball for 56. And up front, a familiar striker, Rondon, who's almost able to get Gordon in on goal. Nice play from Arsenal. And there's the foul on Rondon.
Well, that's Rob Holding there being forced to be welcome to the match and get his touch right away, else you'll pay the price if you're a center back. Take
a look at the through ball here. Rondon. this idea.
Good energy from Anthony Coleman there, but going to need a little bit more, Anthony Gordon, going to need a little bit more creativity to beat a quality side like Arsenal with those through balls. Can't be so direct, can't be so predictable. You can't just rely on speed.
So Arsenal had the way of the match early, Heather O'Reilly, and a couple of goals from their two stars, Saka and the newly acquired Gabriel Jesus. Everton yet to be able to fight back too much, but they have switched almost their entire side over. Arsenal still has some holdovers as Arteta tries to figure out what their lineup is going to be. And one player who will figure in, you see on the ball there, Mohamed El Neni, the Egyptian, 30.
He had a screamer last game, didn't he, Mike?
Yeah, Nuremberg from 30, 40 yards out. I should say feet out. Yeah, just outside of the 18-yard box. Now, curious for your take on Gordon. We talked about him a little bit with Roger Bennett, but now you got to see him here in person. Still so young, but kind of the eyes of the future for Everton as he gets a lot of the ball, and here he is right now.
Well, he's definitely trying to make his impact on the match. He's putting a lot of effort in to kind of cover a lot of ground. I think he needs to just be a little bit more patient and just find some gaps as they open up and try not to have to like run himself into the ground to get on the ball. But I love his enthusiasm and his eagerness to be the one, to be the guy, to say get the ball to my feet. Like we were saying, the number 10 is kind of like the Michael Jordan. You want that player to want to be the talisman, to want to pull the strings. And even for a young player, he looks like he's up for that challenge.
No doubt, had a really impressive season. Big goal against Manchester United. That was a critical victory for Everton as they tried to avoid relegation, which is such a scary word, right, for so many teams, and certainly a club like Everton that's been around since 1888.
You see a great play there from James Tarkowski, who is the only signee so far for Everton to come into this summer signing window. But what they have in him is a real experienced signing. He's very good at stepping into the midfield like we just saw a few moments ago. Experience from his time at Burnley. And that's a safe signing. That's what you call a safe signing. You know exactly what you're going to get. It's not going to ruffle too many feathers. But I think that Everton fans are looking for some signings that will maybe spice things up a little bit because last season wasn't quite good enough, and they don't want it to go to the brink again.
Yeah, certainly hurts to lose Richarlison over to Tottenham. Figured in on so many key goals for them last season. It's a proud club and looking for some players to step into those gaps. And ooh, I like that move from Gordon. A dummy. Here come the Toffees. Iwobi. Wide to Gordon. And ultimately, Arsenal able to fend off the challenge.
Gordon is definitely showing a lot of energy, like we said. I think that you're right, that his way that he creatively let that ball run across his body and use. Sometimes I tell my players, you don't have to do all these fancy tricks on the ball, but you do need to get your defender to bite. And a lot of times you do that with your upper body, you do that with a little stop-start, and that's what we saw from Anthony Gordon.
Well, Heather, you say your players, and of course, as the El Neni is almost going to play Bellerin through, can't quite get in the end of it, and he was offsides anyway. You, of course, after your playing career, are now coaching at the University of North Carolina, and here's that lovely skill from Gordon. And what's it like being an assistant coach who, by the way, can still play? I know you're still match fit. Okay, you just
well,
had two kids.
I don't know if I would say match fit, Mike, but I appreciate you saying that. I got a good level of fitness under me right now, but I don't know if I can play 90 minutes at the highest level.
Okay.
That's giving me a little
coming
bit too
off
much.
the bench. Just
Exactly.
give us 40.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I love coaching. I think that I have a lot to offer to this next generation, but don't get me wrong. When we have an odd number or we need somebody to jump in, I'm putting myself right back in that lineup.
Question. Here's Iwobi, you spoke earlier, and we had a chance to speak to some folks at Everton, and Iwobi essentially being the star of camp thus far. And nice turn there As Rondon tried to get one on net, but Arsenal has been there. There's the aforementioned Iwobi. Now, another player I want to get your take on, Heather. So we spoke about him a bit in the first half, but Nicolas Pepe from the Ivory Coast, 16 goals for Arsenal, and some just very technical prevalence in his game, and a player that should be on the pitch, and yet he's kind of in a fight right now with Saka and with Martinelli. What are your thoughts on how that could evolve this season?
Well, there was a lot of excitement about Pepe. It was the most expensive signing in Arsenal history. So when you throw up that kind of dollar signs for a player, you know, you want production. And Pepe has had a hard time finding his feet in this English league. I think a lot of his goals that were scored in the French league were very transitional, were very direct, or either getting played in behind or off the dribble. But now it's a slower build for Mikel Arteta, and he needs a little bit more patience to combine with his teammates, and Saka's just doing that a little bit better, to be honest. So it'll be really interesting what shakes out for Pepe if he's sent along, if he's happy being a sub and contributing where he can. I just know that his career right now is likely not at a place that he's happy about.
By the way, change in goal for Everton. Billy Krellin now between the pipes, and not that Jordan Pickford needed to show anything. I think we know who's going to be the number one for Everton, as he is the number one for England once we get into the oncoming season. And looks like it's just about time for that second half water break. So we can reset a little bit. Heather, 2-0, a lot of subs in, and that has changed the flow of the game, right? It seems to be a little bit less direct, a little bit less organized, as you would expect, as players are likely playing together on the pitch for the first time.
Yeah, the first half definitely had a little bit more fluidity. You could tell that they were more the starting lineup that had some experience playing with each other. And when you have these mass substitutions, Mike, it's really hard to find that chemistry, and everybody's trying so hard to prove their point that the team cohesion from both sides is lacking a little bit. And speaking of Pepe, could it get any worse for the guy? He's trying to, you know, prove why he is a worthy signing for Arsenal at the most expensive price tag ever, and then he just gets one bopped right in the nose, and now he's struggling to find some joy in this match as well.
Yeah, naturally, right. You're watching the Charm City match presented by Frank's Red Hot. We are live in lovely Baltimore. Weather started out a little bit hot, and it has cooled down, certainly. The breeze coming in off of the water. And it's just a pleasure to get the English Premier League, at least from this one person's opinion, the greatest league in world sport, right here stateside. So many fans in this country emerging. Mikel Arteta happened to play for both of these sides. Earlier in his career, it was with Everton, eventually went over to Arsenal and captained that team. Maybe the first signs of leadership. Heather, did you find that in your career, that captain just seems to be sort of, it's a natural transition into coaching?
I think you're right. I think it takes a special character to be a captain. You're usually a mature figure off the pitch. You know, on the pitch, you're usually a little bit more cerebral about the game. You don't fall for the shenanigans in the dressing room, maybe as much as a more kind of like light-hearted player that wants absolutely nothing to do with coaching when their playing career is done.
Right.
But he always seemed like he took his football very seriously as a player and now as a manager.
Now, in the early 2000s, would your first captain have been Julie?
Yes,
Foudy?
Julie Foudy.
The great Julie Foudy. As you see, Xhaka is getting arrested. He will be done for the evening.
And speaking of my college coaching career right now, this is what it looks like in college soccer with all these mass substitutions, and you know, we have different substitution rules in international play, and this is what it looks like. You know, 4 or 5 people going on the field, but that's what these preseason scrimmages or, you know, exhibition friendlies are for these teams, trying to get players their minutes, get players fit. We talk so much about loading at the professional level, and that's a sports science term for you know, how many minutes on the pitch, how many sprints you're getting in the distance covered, what speed you're doing it at. All this stuff is tracked now by the GPS devices on these players' backs, and that's a little bit of what this game is for as well. Obviously, you want the result, but more than anything, you want people coming out healthy, a little bit fitter, and with more ideas than they came in with.
All right, so some of these Arsenal young players that you just alluded to, you see one right there. That's Reece Nelson, 25, Sambi Lakanga, number 23, and then Ravel Walters, English international, number 97. And these are all, I don't want to say kids, but young men, right? Kids relative to being teenagers often, or at least in early 20s, that are up and trying to impress enough to be considered, maybe not for the 25 that they're going to narrow the roster down, but hey, maybe somebody that gets brought up as the season goes on, as you often see young pieces do with these clubs.
Well, I think this is Frank Lampard essentially saying this game is a little bit out of reach for us in order for getting a result. So what are we going to use it for? We're going to use it for, you know, seeing how these young kids perform under pressure. They have to make some very quick decisions on some of these players in order, you know, do we give them a contract? Do we put them on loan? Do we ship them out? In games like this is where you can see these players.
Yeah, and there's an established striker, though, in Eddie Nketiah, who tried to turn and get a shot on goal there. 14 goals for the England under-21s, and a couple of years ago, and that was actually a record. Joined Arsenal at age 16. And Heather, let's take a peek at the foul here. Yeah, pretty clear.
Well, I think Ballerin's an experienced player, and he doesn't like the looks of Anthony Gordon getting around him so easily. So that one was surviving your ego, making sure that that young kid isn't smoking you.
Well, Bellerin is out there perhaps to steady the young players a bit. Of course, a longtime Arsenal man who was most recently on loan and now back with the senior squad. We'll see, though. We'll see, right, as the season commences. And that's Walters getting a touch out on the left back. You can catch in the background Heather's chants here and there, although perhaps fewer than early, right, when you had Jesus out there. But you can still hear from the Arsenal and Everton supporters here in Charm City. And there's Rob Holding. Holding is a player who should figure in. Right, he's in 15 appearances last year.
Yeah, he's a steady veteran. You know what you're going to get with Rob.
And there's a foul. Like Nketiah was going to turn his man.
I think in terms of athleticism and being a physical force, somebody like Gabriel, I think, is going to be a little bit more resilient than Rob Holding, but he's still a very solid squad player for Arsenal.
That was the first action we've seen from Michael Keane, who will certainly figure into Everton's side. Center back. Started his career with Man U, eventually went to Burnley and then Everton in 2017. He's played 179 games for them at this point. 31 starts last year. Hold things down. And still at the, you know, I was going to say prime of his career. Heather, maybe you can explain. It's the prime in English football is a bit younger than people might think of, right? If you're watching the NBA or if you're even watching some domestic leagues, they're just so, the fitness level is so insane that you have a lot of kind of between, you know, 21 to 25, 26. And if a player is still playing into the 30s, it tells you something about the fitness level and just how great that player might be.
Well, with so much organization in the academy system, some of these guys have been playing, you know, maybe not called professional because they might not make money, but their lifestyle has been one of a professional since they were 12 or 13 years old. So they've been in the mix. They've been, you know, doing this as their main gig for a long time. And so then I think by the age of 17, 18, they're almost seasoned at that point, Mike.
A lovely touch there from El Neni to try to release a striker. And Freeman able to come out and clear. And you also have to figure with that youth development system and just with the transactional side of the game, Heather, there are probably several 30 to 32-year-olds that are better, right, than the 18, 19-year-old that are trying to become that next person. But that exchange right there is also just so significant in international soccer.
I think when you're buying a young player, you're buying for what they can do now, but you're buying for what they can do in 10 years. And I always say it's nice to have that potential card, right? Because, I just think you have so much room for mistakes because people think, okay, they're a young player, they'll grow from it, they'll learn. When you're an older player, you get a little bit of a shorter leash because you don't maybe have as much time to mature. You sort of are who you are at that point. So I think those are all big questions that a lot of managers are making right now.
Well, more dangerous than Kedia gets in front of the keeper, and Crennan has to come out once again. And he's starting to feel some danger as Arsenal looks for a third. 2 goals for Arsenal came in that first half. You know, one player we haven't had a chance to discuss yet who's playing in the back for Everton and factoring in there is Vitaly Mikolenko, who is from the Ukraine, and you know what a difficult time, right, for him and for all Ukrainians as war continues to happen there, and here he is playing, representing his country. Everton, a lot of the supporters there and some of the staff, how they told us how impressed they have been with how stalwart he has been and being able to play as Nketiah turns the corner. Here's the clearance, but you can certainly empathize with a player and just a person in the sense of going through that.
Yeah, I think that he showed a lot of strength last season during a very difficult time for his country. He scored a great goal, maybe not the greatest goal of the whole season for the squad, but it was considered the goal of the season, and the staff thought that was a little bit of a sort of hat tip to him and everything that he sort of went through that year. But he's here to make an impact. He's not here for any sympathy claps right now. He wants to make an impact on this team, and coming in as a second half sub, I'm sure that he's hoping that he's on the other side of the starting lineup come the regular season.
Well, it's too bad we don't have Roger Bennett here to clarify for us what he thought the goal of the year was. I Googled this goal. I didn't actually catch it within the Premier League last season. It was an absolute screaming volley against Leicester City, and it was worthy of goal of the year. There wasn't
so it wasn't the fact that he's Ukrainian, his country's at war. It was actually a gem.
The way that it was explained to us was sort of like, yeah, it was a sympathy vote. And then I saw it, and I was like, no. This was a bomb. He absolutely deserved it. And by the way, yellow cards coming out here, and understandably so, as just trying to keep Nketiah off of the ball has proved difficult for Everton here in the second half.
Just getting a little bit too physical, and you think that you're getting beat. You want to make sure that you're disrupting them as much as possible, and that a little bit it can be seen as a professional foul, but I think more than anything it was just a foul out of frustration. It has been a frustrating last 55 minutes or so for Everton. So
Nketiah has actually dual citizenship. He's able to play for either England or Ghana. And no shot, instead a chipped ball to the far post from El Neni. Thought he might rip one. As you know, he does like to strike the ball from distance. Instead, it looked like a bit of a set piece here from Arsenal.
Yeah, another really great delivery on their set pieces. And just very professional from the newcomer to see that ball out.
Just about 10 minutes to go, plus a bit of extra time.
Well, if you're Frank Lampard, you like that your side has the confidence to play out on a goal kick like that, but you don't want to see that sort of stress from your center defender that they can't complete that pass to the wing. Now it's back in their end, feeling the heat again.
You know, Heather, just considering the changes that Arsenal have made, and I'd love to see Everton get something going forward with the Iwobi, right, with Gordon. I mean, these are 2 regulars, right, that will either start or be 2 of the first subs off the bench this season. So would love to see, if you're an Everton supporter, Toffee's a little bit of momentum moving forward, because it's mostly been Arsenal's game tonight.
Well, I think to go back to Alex Iwobi's game, I think that that's a frustration that a lot of people have for him is he is this fit player and very likable teammate, but when push comes to shove, can he change a game for you? And I think that Everton is missing some game changers in their squad, and they're really relying on it falling on the shoulders of 20-year-old Anthony Gordon.
That's a great way to put it in perspective, and especially thinking of the transfer of Richarlison, who is that caliber, right, of player, and he goes out. And can Everton pull somebody back in? And this is also the trick in the Premier League, right, with the table, is that if you aren't close to Champions League play the previous year, it's harder to get some of those players to come. Whereas for Arsenal, they're just one spot out, right? And then Gabriel has one nice combination play here on the sideline. Whereas Arsenal, they were able to get Jesus to come.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of a positive signing there, you just saw a great piece of play from Jamie Czukowski, but you know, he is a defender, and he's going to do his job. We saw him spin out of pressure there and keep possession. But if I'm an Everton fan, or Frank Lampard for that matter, I'm thinking I need a little bit more bite up top. A little bit more depth in my squad of players that can change games, that can create, that can force errors from the back line.
Bit of an aggressive tackle there, but nothing too notable. And that was Lewis Warrington.
Just for Roger Bennett's health more than anything else. You know, I don't want Everton getting themselves in the same position as last season. So.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is that can you use that going into the season? As you alluded to earlier, Heather, take that first match, right, so seriously and not get off to that slow start as they did last season. But the English Premier League is not very forgiving. You might open up with Man City, and then you get Liverpool the next week, right? And then you see Wolves in the middle of the table. I mean, it is absolutely cutthroat. Only 20 teams. There's Bellerin, been active on the wing. And Hector, 3 FA Cups on his resume. A little bit overeager.
Well, again, we're looking at players who want to make a difference. He's throwing in some upper body fakes like we talked about. He just can't scheme his way around the defender and sort of winds up having to go straight through him. Gets the foul called.
And that was Mikolenko, again, out of Ukraine, the 23-year-old. So he was acquired in January in the transfer window, and Frank Lampard seemed to take a liking to it because he started 12 out of the next 13 appearances for Everton, becoming kind of a staple out there at left back.
Well, that's the thing when you make a coaching change mid-season, Mike, is every player then has like almost this rebirth, this new chance to impress their new boss. From players that have been starting, they need to prove that they should be starting again, and players that haven't been getting as many minutes as they want now have sort of a new chance. And he used that, and coaches have different opinions, different styles, what they prefer. I mean, obviously there's so many different ways to play this beautiful game, and that's why people love it around the world.
Well, Bellerin clearly not going to just let Gordon dribble tonight. That's the third time that he has fouled the young Englishman. Bellerin out of Spain, as is his manager, Mikel Arteta. You starting to get a little excited about the World Cup? I know it's still a couple months away.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm still wrapping my head around the fact that it will be middle of the season in the Prem, you know, and November. November. I mean, I'm used to, you know, fall, you know, pumpkin spice lattes and, you know, watching American football, and then we're just going to have the World Cup nestled in right when we're sitting down at our Thanksgiving dinner. It's going to be a little bit weird, but I'm looking forward to it. I mean, obviously, you know, the U.S. has a really great opportunity under Greg Berhalter to do some amazing things, and I think the U.S. should be optimistic. And if we don't go as far as we want this World Cup, I think that it'll be a wonderful building block to 2026 when we're at home. I think this young group of guys can do some phenomenal damage at the World Cup.
Yeah, this next generation who have all seemingly, maybe there are a couple of exceptions, but been playing on big European teams. We're talking about Chelsea and Barcelona and Juventus, right? So it's it's really exciting to see where that's going. And that's, of course, where you have been there, right on the women's side. You guys have been up there carrying a lot of that water. And can I ask you about, we've seen there have been some developments, right? We know about the equal pay. What has been your position throughout, and how do you think it's been resolved? Not that it's all resolved now, but how do you think the progression has been?
Well, I think it's been a difficult time for the women's national team. I mean, nobody wants to be, at war with their employer at all, and it's kind of dragged out. But I think it's come to a really promising position with the men and women agreeing to take equal money, and so there'll be a new camaraderie between the teams, because every team, you want each other to do well. I think a big holdup still is the FIFA prize money. It's just such a huge discrepancy from the FIFA level that it makes it challenging for U.S. soccer to sort of reconcile that gap. But Cindy Parlow-Cohen has done it, and I think it's a new day for U.S. soccer.
Yeah, very well said. And meanwhile, you see Everton trying to press some, right? Trying to get a goal to make their fans in attendance happy, and Arsenal back on the ball with the counter. Now the wing came up the wing.
Very much a 5-back from Everton here, Mike. You know, it's hard for the wingbacks to kind of get out of the gates, and that must be so frustrating, especially when you're down 2 goals. You want to be able to be freed up and at least create some danger, and instead Everton is being forced to play really conservatively right now.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier in the game, so Everton didn't see a lot of the football last year. They were 19th in the Premier League in terms of possession. They only had the ball around 38% of the time. That's going to, of course, be in contrast to the teams like Manchester City and Liverpool, and even Arsenal to an extent is a team that's in the upper half of having the ball. You know, it's a little easier when you have the depth of talent, as some of those big squads have.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Everton side get some speedy front runners, some players that, even if they do play a very transitional game, can at least hold the ball and let their team kind of get out of the blocks.
Yeah, one of those players are right there, and Ketia, who again has just been problematic every time he's on the ball, right? Everton has to account for that player.
Absolutely, and we spoke about it before. I mean, he must be disappointed that Gabriel Jesus is getting all the talk right now, and he wants to make his mark on this game and on this team, and he's done that the last couple of games. Some really fine performances from him.
Nice little advanced work here, and Gordon and Everton trying to get forward. Only a couple minutes left here in Baltimore. Nice touch from Iwobi, and that will be a free kick. Iwobi showing some frustration. And the yellow card given over to Pablo Mari. Pablo Mari, we haven't had a chance to speak too much about tonight, but Spaniard was on loan to Udinese last year. Let's take a look at that foul. So yeah, there's the nice touch in. Yeah, that's a classic yellow there, right? Disrupting a scoring chance.
Yeah, but we see, some of these players coming off their summer break, so a simple play like that where you would want to just come hard with your mark and then get back in your line. He's a little bit slow in the way that he steps up. And, he did have, all these players did have a couple weeks off in the summer, Mike, and you kind of lose a little bit of your sharpness, so they're all kind of gaining that back.
Let's see if Anthony Gordon wants to have a shot here. We are pretty deep. Okay, he went for it, and it hit the wall. Nice header across from Everton.
I mean, gotta love the confidence of the boy, but that's pretty ambitious for a young kid to take that free kick off some of the veteran players and then not, get it on frame.
Hey, Keller, he's the number 10 now. If the older players have an issue, you look at the number on my back. Yeah, there's a nice strike. Is Arsenal hungry for a third? And that was Nicolas Pepe, the 26-year-old from the Ivory Coast. And we're into stoppage time, so 3 more minutes, roughly. Do you have any stoppage time favorite stories from your career, Heather?
You know what?
I know there's some from the Olympics or the World Cup.
Oh, nice one. I appreciate the layup there, Mike. Yeah, 123rd minute in Old Trafford. One of the best plays of my career. Abby Wombo gets the ball in the middle. She puts a very heavy pass. A lot of players wouldn't even try to keep it in bounds, but you know what? I just got in the game, so I had no reason
can't slow down, shouting loud. Got me running red lights. Oh, I just can't get you out of my mind. I can't slow down, raising my speeding into the night. Oh, I just can't get you out of my mind. I can't slow down, shouting loud. Got me running red lights. Oh, I just can't get you out of my mind. Out of my mind, out of my mind, out of my mind. Can't get you out of my mind. Can't get you out of my mind.
Ha llegado ese día tan especial, ese día marcado en el calendario de todos los amantes del fútbol, la final de la UEFA Champions League, el privilegio de estar con ustedes en esta cabina, Marito Kempes y quien les habla, Fernando Palomo. Inigualable ambiente el que se ha formado a minutos nada más del arranque de este partidazo. El histórico Real Madrid chocará contra llegó el día que todos esperábamos, la final de la UEFA Champions League. Soy Fernando Palomo y como siempre Mario Alberto Kempes y yo les estaremos llevando los comentarios de este partido, del cual solo nos separan minutos para su inicio. El Real Madrid enfrenta al Liverpool. Ya se viene la patada inicial de esta final de la Champions. Esto va a elevar la tensión al máximo. Entra todo en juego. Toda una temporada de definirse nada más que en los minutos de fútbol que ahora se empezarán a jugar. Es increíble la hazaña de uno de estos dos equipos. Enfrente, Mario querido, tenemos al último campeón, claro. Llegando a otro.
Saludos, men.
Buscando defender el título. Lo están haciendo y ves la ilusión en el rostro de la afición que los acompaña. Como si jamás.
Saludos, Jefferson.
La ilusión sigue intacta. Ganarlo es el gran objetivo.
Es maravilloso.
Saludos, Harrow. Wow, cómo llega la gente. Qué bien, qué ánimo. Excelente.
En esta final ya es.
Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros.
Fíjate cómo lo acompaña la gente. La afición está
aquí haciendo algunas pruebas. Estamos empezando a tener nuestro VTuber. Sí, porque no quiero tapar no quiero tapar toda la cancha. llegando, llegando.
Impresionante.
Ese men, ¿viste el video? ¿Viste el video que subí?
Maravilloso, majestuoso, viejo estadio de la Peineta.
¿Viste el videito?
Empezar a reconstruir. Está claro porque acá entraban 20.000 espectadores y hoy su capacidad es de 67.000.
¿O no lo viste?
Este es el 11. Hoy se va a parar a defender al líder.
Jefferson, ¿lo viste? Ah, está bien. Está bien. Y sí, andaba probando, por eso es que hoy no he tirado ningún directo porque estaba arreglando esto. Quería ver cómo era instalar esto y hacer que funcionara. Saludos, Luis Guerrero. Bienvenido, bienvenido. Ahí te está mandando saludos del avatar, mira. Ah.